5 hours ago, I was standing in my bedroom wearing old sweatpants and a faded t-shirt, fully committed to spending another Friday night alone on my couch. I had no idea that by midnight, I'd be pressed against a brick wall in a dimly lit bar, breathless, while a woman with storm gray eyes whispered promises that made my knees weak. This is the story of how one unexpected night changed everything I thought I knew about love, courage, and what it means to be truly seen. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning, because 5 hours before that moment, I was just Sloane, 28, perpetually single, and convinced that real passion was something that happened to other people in movies and novels, not to someone like me. I was staring into my closet, phone in hand, reading the text that had just arrived from my best friend Harper. "We're going out tonight. No excuses. I already called the Uber." "You have 30 minutes?" I groaned and texted back, "Not tonight. I'm exhausted." Her reply came instantly, accompanied by a photo of her already dressed and ready. "You've been exhausted for 6 months. Get dressed. You need this." She wasn't wrong. The truth was, I'd been in a rut for longer than I wanted to admit. Work consumed most of my energy. I was an architect at a mid-sized firm in Portland, and lately, every project felt like it was draining the life out of me. My social life had withered to nothing more than occasional texts and the rare coffee date I was too polite to cancel. I stood there, phone in hand, considering my options. I could tell Harper no and spend another night scrolling through streaming services, eating leftover Thai food, and pretending I was content. Or I could take a chance, step outside my comfort zone, and see what happened. Something in me stirred. A whisper of curiosity, maybe even hope. I texted back, "Fine. But if this night sucks, you owe me brunch for a month." "Deal. Now move." 25 minutes later, I was standing in front of my mirror, second-guessing every choice I'd made. I'd settled on dark jeans that actually fit well, a burgundy blouse that showed just enough without being obvious, and my favorite leather jacket, the one that made me feel like I had my life together even when I absolutely didn't. I'd added minimal makeup, just enough to look awake and intentional, and left my auburn hair down in loose waves. My phone buzzed. "Outside. You look gorgeous. I can sense it." I grabbed my purse, took one last look in the mirror, and headed out the door before I could change my mind. The Uber smelled like vanilla air freshener and someone's expensive cologne. Harper slid in first, already chattering away, her energy infectious as always. She was wearing a black jumpsuit that somehow looked both casual and elegant, her dark curls pulled into a high ponytail, gold hoops catching the streetlights. "You look hot," she said, the moment I settled in beside her. "You're biased." "I'm observant. There's a difference." She grinned at me, then leaned in conspiratorially. "Tonight's mission, remind you that you're allowed to have fun. And maybe, just maybe, meet someone who makes you remember what butterflies feel like." I rolled my eyes, but I was smiling. "You're ridiculous." I'm a visionary. The drive took less than 15 minutes. The bar Harper had chosen was called the Violet Room, a place I'd heard about but never visited. It wasn't one of those loud, crowded clubs where you couldn't hear yourself think. This was something different. Intimate, warm, the kind of place where people went to actually connect, not just to be seen. When we stepped inside, the atmosphere wrapped around me like a soft blanket. Exposed brick walls, dim Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling, a long wooden bar that looked like it had stories carved into every scratch. Jazz music hummed through hidden speakers, just loud enough to set a mood without overwhelming conversation. People sat in small clusters, some at the bar, others tucked into cozy booths along the walls. The energy felt alive but not chaotic, inviting but not overwhelming. Harper headed straight for the bar, waving at the bartender like they were old friends. I followed more slowly, taking it all in, trying to shake off the nervous energy buzzing under my skin. And that's when I saw her. She was standing near the back wall, one shoulder leaning casually against the brick, a glass of amber liquid in her hand. She wore black jeans and a charcoal blazer over a simple white t-shirt, sleeves pushed up to reveal toned forearms. Her dark hair was cut short on the sides, longer on top, styled in that effortlessly messy way that looked intentional. But it wasn't her clothes or her hair that caught me. It was the way she held herself confident without arrogance, present without trying, like she knew exactly who she was and didn't need anyone's approval. And she was looking directly at me. Not a passing glance, not a casual sweep of the room. She was watching me like she'd been waiting for me to notice her. My stomach flipped. Here. Harper shoved a drink into my hand, something clear with lime and ice. Now you have no excuse not to relax. I took a sip, but my attention was still across the room, locked on the woman who hadn't looked away. Who is that? I asked, trying to sound casual. Harper followed my gaze. Her eyebrows shot up. No idea, but damn, she's gorgeous. And she's definitely looking at you. Maybe she's just zoning out. Harper gave me a look that said she wasn't buying it for a second. Sloan, that woman is not zoning out. She's looking at you like you're the most interesting person in this entire bar. I felt heat creep up my neck. What do? You walk over there and say hi. Like a normal human being who's allowed to take up space and talk to attractive women. I hesitated, my heart hammering in my chest. I wasn't good at this. I never had been. The idea of walking up to a complete stranger, especially one who looked like that, made my palms sweat. But then she did something that changed everything. She raised her glass slightly in my direction. Not a full toast, just a subtle acknowledgement. A quiet invitation. Harper elbowed me. That's your opening. If you don't go over there, I will. And I'll tell her you write poetry about her in your journal. I don't write poetry. She doesn't know that. I took a long breath, set down my drink, and wiped my palms against my jeans. Okay, I'm going. That's my girl. The walk across the bar felt longer than it actually was. Every step made my pulse quicken. I was hyper aware of everything, the music, the conversations around me, the way her eyes stayed on me the entire time, steady and unwavering. When I finally stopped in front of her, I realized I had no plan, no rehearsed line. Just me, standing there, trying not to look as nervous as I felt. Hi, I said, and my voice came out steadier than I expected. Her lips curved into the slightest smile. Hi. Up close, she was even more striking. Her eyes were gray, the kind of gray that looked silver in certain light, and they held mine with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. I'm Sloan, I said. Lennox. She extended her hand. When our fingers touched, I felt it a spark, a hum, something electric that ran straight through me. Her grip was firm but not aggressive, warm and confident. And when she didn't let go right away, I knew she felt it too. I saw you from across the room, I said, hoping I didn't sound as breathless as I felt. You looked interesting. Interesting? Her smile widened just a fraction. Is that code for something? Maybe, I admitted. I'm still figuring it out. She laughed, then low and genuine, the kind of laugh that made me want to hear it again. I like your honesty. I like your confidence. Is that what you call it? She tilted her head slightly, studying me. I was just standing here, hoping you'd come over. You could have come to me. I could have, she agreed. But I wanted to see if you would, and you did. There was something disarming about the way she spoke, direct but not harsh, playful but not mocking. She wasn't playing games. She was just present, real. So what made you decide to come over? She asked. You looked at me like you already knew me, I said honestly, and I wanted to know if I was imagining it. Her eyes softened. You weren't imagining it. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The noise of the bar faded into background hum. It was just the two of us, standing close enough that I could smell her cologne, something woodsy and clean, with a hint of citrus. Do you want to sit somewhere? Lennox asked, gesturing toward a quieter corner booth. Yeah, I said. I'd like that. We slid into a booth tucked away from the main crowd. The table between us was small, intimate, lit by a single candle that flickered softly in the dim light. Lennox sat across from me, one arm draped casually along the back of the seat, her body angled toward mine. So Sloan, she said, her voice smooth and unhurried. Tell me something real. Real. Yeah, not small talk. Something that matters to you. I thought about it for a moment, surprised by the question. Most people didn't ask things like that. Most people stayed safe, surface level. But Lennox wasn't most people. I think I've been sleepwalking through my life, I said quietly, going through the motions, checking boxes, but not really feeling anything. And tonight is the first time in a long time that I feel awake. She didn't respond right away. She just looked at me, really looked at me, like she was taking in every word and holding it carefully. I'm glad you're awake, she said finally. You deserve to be. Something in my chest tightened. What about you? Tell me something real. Lennox leaned forward slightly, her elbows resting on the table. I've spent most of my life keeping people at arm's length, not because I don't care, but because I care too much. And it scares me. But tonight, she paused, her eyes searching mine. Tonight, I don't want to keep my distance. My breath caught. The air between us felt charged, alive with possibility. What do you do, Lennox? I asked, trying to ground myself in something tangible. I'm a photographer, she said. Freelance, mostly. Portraits, some editorial work. I like capturing moments, the ones people don't usually notice. That makes sense, I said. You seem like someone who pays attention. I do, she agreed. Especially to things worth noticing. The way she looked at me when she said it made my skin flush. We talked for what felt like hours. She told me about growing up in Seattle, about her love for black and white film photography, about the time she road tripped across the country with nothing but a duffel bag and a camera. I told her about my work, about the building I was designing that I actually cared about my fear that I was too boring to be interesting. You're not boring, she said firmly. You're careful. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah, boring people don't take risks. But you walked across this bar to talk to me? That took courage. I smiled. You made it easy. Good. At some point, our knees touched under the table. Neither of us moved away. Harper appeared eventually, leaning over the booth with a knowing grin. Hey, lovebirds. Just checking in. I'm heading out with some friends. You good? I glanced at Lennox, then back at Harper. Yeah, I'm good. Harper winked. Text me later. And Sloane? Have fun. She disappeared before I could respond. Lennox chuckled. Your friend seems fun. She's a menace, I said fondly. But she's also the reason I'm here tonight, so I can't complain. Remind me to thank her? The bar was starting to thin out. It was past midnight now, and the energy had shifted quieter, more intimate. Lennox finished her drink and set the glass down gently. Do you want to get out of here? She asked. My heart skipped. And go where? Nowhere specific. Just walk, talk, see where the night takes us. I didn't hesitate. Yeah, let's go. The night air was cool against my skin as we stepped outside. The street was quieter now, the buzz of the bar fading behind us. Lennox walked beside me, close enough that our shoulders brushed with every step. Where do you live? She asked. Not far. About 10 minutes by car. You? Same direction, actually. We walked in comfortable silence for a while, just existing together in the stillness of the night, and then, without warning, Lennox reached for my hand. Her fingers slid between mine like they belonged there, warm and steady and sure. I looked at her, surprised. She smiled. Is this okay? Yeah, I whispered. It's more than okay. We kept walking, hand in hand, and I realized something. This wasn't just a good night. This was the beginning of something real. Something that might change everything, and I wasn't afraid anymore. We stood on the corner of a quiet street, the glow of a street lamp casting soft shadows across Lennox's face. Her hand was still wrapped around mine, warm and grounding, and I didn't want to let go. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I don't want this night to end, I said softly, the words escaping before I could second-guess them. Lennox turned to face me fully, her gray eyes searching mine in the dim light. Then, let's not let it end. Not yet. What do you mean? She hesitated for just a moment, then said, Come back to my place. Not for. I mean, just to talk more. I have a balcony with a view of the city. We could sit, have some tea, keep this going a little longer. My heart hammered against my ribs. Every rational part of my brain told me to be cautious, to take things slow, to protect myself. But there was something about Lennox, something genuine and magnetic, that made me want to throw caution aside for once in my life. Okay, I said. Yes, I'd like that. Her smile was brilliant, transforming her face from beautiful to breathtaking. Yeah? Yeah. She pulled out her phone and ordered a car. While we waited, we stood close together. her thumb tracing absent circles on the back of my hand. Neither of us spoke, but the silence wasn't empty. It was full of anticipation, possibility, the delicious tension of something about to unfold. The drive to her apartment took less than 10 minutes. Lennox lived in a converted warehouse in the Pearl District, all industrial chic, with exposed brick and steel beams. We rode the elevator to the 4th floor in silence, standing close but not quite touching, the air between us crackling with unspoken promise. When she unlocked her door and gestured for me to enter, I stepped into a space that immediately felt like her. The apartment was open concept, with high ceilings and large windows that overlooked the city lights. One wall was covered entirely in photographs, black and white portraits, landscapes, candid street shots. A vintage record player sat in the corner, surrounded by crates of vinyl. Books were stacked on every available surface, and a well-worn leather couch faced the windows. "This is beautiful," I said, taking it all in. "Thanks. It's home." She set her keys on a small table by the door. "Tea? Or something stronger?" "Tea sounds perfect." While she moved to the kitchen, I wandered over to the wall of photographs. Each one was stunning, not just technically perfect, but emotionally resonant. There was a portrait of an elderly woman laughing, her face a map of joy and lived experience, a shot of rain-slicked streets at night, reflections creating abstract patterns, a close-up of intertwined hands, the intimacy of the image almost overwhelming. "You're incredibly talented," I called out. "Thank you." She appeared beside me with 2 mugs of steaming tea. "Photography is how I make sense of the world. It's how I connect to people, to moments, to beauty." She handed me a mug and led me to the balcony. We stepped outside into the cool night air, and I gasped softly. The view was spectacular, the city spread out below us, lights twinkling like earthbound stars. We sat in 2 canvas chairs, close enough that our knees touched. For a while, we just sipped our tea and looked out at the city, comfortable in the quiet. "Can I ask you something?" Lennox said eventually. "Anything. What were you really doing tonight before your friend dragged you out?" I laughed softly. "Honestly, I was planning to eat leftover Chinese food and rewatch a show I've already seen 3 times. My life has been incredibly small lately." "Why?" I considered the question, turning the warm mug between my hands. I think somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that wanting more was selfish, that I should be grateful for stability, for safety, for the predictable. But the truth is, I've been lonely, really lonely. And I didn't know how to admit that, even to myself. Lennox reached over and placed her hand on my knee. The touch was gentle, comforting. "I understand that, more than you know." "Tell me," I said softly. She was quiet for a moment, staring out at the city lights. When she spoke, her voice was lower, more vulnerable than I'd heard it all night. "I was in a relationship for 4 years. Her name was Victoria. We met in college, and for a long time, I thought she was it for me. We moved to Portland together, built a life here. But somewhere along the way, we stopped seeing each other. We became roommates who occasionally had sex. The intimacy died, and I didn't even notice until it was too late. What happened? She cheated with her boss, of all the cliches." Lennox smiled, but there was pain in it. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was realizing that I wasn't devastated. I was relieved. That's when I knew it had been over for a long time, and neither of us had the courage to admit it. When did this happen? About a year ago. Since then, I've been cautious. I've dated casually, but I haven't let anyone get close. I told myself I was protecting myself, but really, I think I was just scared. I set down my mug and turned to face her fully. "What changed tonight?" She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I felt the weight of her gaze all the way through my bones. "You did. From the moment you walked into that bar, something shifted. I saw you, and I thought, I want to know her. Not just for a night, but really know her. And that terrified me, but I didn't want to let fear win this time. My breath caught, I'm scared too." "I know." She reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, her fingers lingering against my cheek. "But maybe being scared together is better than being safe alone." The distance between us felt impossibly small. I could see the flecks of blue in her gray eyes, the slight curve of her lips, the way her chest rose and fell with each breath. Lennox, I whispered. Yeah? Can I kiss you? Her smile was soft, almost reverent. I was hoping you'd ask. I leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind, but she didn't pull away. When our lips met, it was gentle at first, tentative, exploratory, like a question we were both trying to answer. But then she sighed against my mouth, and something inside me ignited. The kiss deepened, her hand slid into my hair, and mine found the curve of her waist, pulling her closer. She tasted like tea, and something sweeter, something uniquely her. Time seemed to slow and speed up simultaneously. All I knew was the warmth of her mouth, the softness of her touch, the way my entire body seemed to come alive under her attention. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. Lennox rested her forehead against mine. Wow, she breathed. Yeah, I agreed, wow. We didn't go further that night. Instead, we stayed on the balcony talking until the sky began to lighten with the first hints of dawn. We talked about everything, our dreams, our fears, our favorite movies and books, the weird little habits we'd never told anyone about. She told me about her obsession with vintage cameras. I told her about my secret love of terrible reality TV. It was easy, effortless, like we'd known each other for years instead of hours. When I finally checked my phone, I was shocked to see it was nearly 6 in the morning. I should probably go, I said reluctantly. I have to work on Monday, and I need at least a few hours of sleep. Lennox stood and pulled me to my feet. Can I see you again? Soon? How about tomorrow? I suggested. Or I guess technically today, since it's already Saturday. She grinned. Brunch? Perfect. She walked me to the door, and we stood in the threshold for a long moment, neither of us wanting to say goodbye. Tonight was, I started, then stopped, unable to find the right words. I know, she said softly. For me too. She kissed me one more time, slow and sweet and full of promise, then called me a car and waited with me until it arrived. As I rode home through the quiet streets, watching the city wake up around me, I couldn't stop smiling. I felt like I was glowing from the inside out, like something fundamental had shifted in the universe, and I would never be quite the same. I slept for 4 hours, then woke up to a text from Lennox, already counting the hours until I see you again. Sweet dreams, Sloan. I hugged my phone to my chest and laughed out loud. Harper was going to lose her mind when I told her. Speaking of Harper, I had 17 texts from her, ranging from, "Are you alive?" to, "If you don't text me back in the next hour, I'm filing a missing persons report," to, "Oh my God, you're still with her, aren't you?" I sent her a quick message. "I'm alive. I'm home. And yes, I'm seeing her again today. Call you later." Her response was immediate. Brunch. My place. Noon. I need all the details. Harper lived in a cozy studio apartment in Hawthorne, decorated with an eclectic mix of thrifted furniture and plants that somehow thrived despite her insistence that she had a black thumb. When I arrived at noon, she threw open the door wearing pajama pants and an oversized sweatshirt that said, "Powered by Spite and Coffee." "Get in here," she demanded, pulling me inside. "I made mimosas and avocado toast, and you're going to tell me everything." We settled on her couch with our plates and drinks, and I told her the whole story. How we'd talked for hours, the balcony, the kiss, the way it felt like the world had rearranged itself around us. Harper listened with wide eyes, occasionally interjecting with reactions like, "Oh my God, and that's so romantic, and I fucking knew it." When I finished, she set down her mimosa and looked at me seriously. "Sloan, I've known you for 8 years. I have never seen you look like this. You're glowing." "I know," I said, unable to keep the smile off my face. "Harper, I think this could be something real." "Then don't sabotage it," she said gently. "I know you. I know you get scared when things get too good. You start looking for reasons to run before someone can hurt you. But this woman, she seems special. Don't let fear ruin this before it even starts." Her words hit home. She was right. I had a habit of self-sabotage, of pulling away when things got too intense, too vulnerable. But I didn't want to do that this time. I didn't want to let fear win. "You're right," I said. "I'm gonna try. Really try." Harper raised her glass. "To trying. And to Lennox, who better treat you like the amazing woman you are, or she'll have to answer to me." We clinked glasses, and I felt a surge of gratitude for this fierce, loving friend who always had my back. That evening, I met Lennox at a small brunch spot in Alberta. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table by the window, and when she saw me, her entire face lit up. "Hi," she said as I slid into the seat across from her. "Hi." We grinned at each other like idiots for a solid 10 seconds before she reached across the table and took my hand. "I missed you," she said. "Is that weird? We just saw each other a few hours ago." "Not weird," I assured her. "I missed you too." Brunch was perfect. We shared Belgian waffles and talked about our plans for the week. She had a photo shoot on Tuesday for a local magazine. I had a presentation at work that I was nervous about. We made plans to see each other again on Wednesday, and then again on Friday. As we walked out of the restaurant, Lennox stopped suddenly and turned to me. "I want to be honest with you about something," she said. My heart clenched with worry. "Okay, I really like you, Sloan, like a lot. More than I've liked anyone in a really long time. And I know it's fast, and maybe that should scare me, but it doesn't. What scares me is the thought of not seeing where this goes." Relief and joy flooded through me. I feel the same way. So maybe we should just be brave together? I stepped closer and kissed her softly. I'd like that. The next few weeks were a blur of happiness. We saw each other almost every day, coffee dates before work, dinners at Hole in the Wall, restaurants we'd never tried, quiet evenings at her apartment where we'd cook together and talk for hours. She showed me her favorite spots in the city, hidden parks and vintage bookstores, and the best place to watch the sunset. I introduced her to Harper, who interrogated her mercilessly for 20 minutes before declaring her acceptable and giving me an enthusiastic thumbs up when Lennox wasn't looking. We hadn't officially labeled what we were yet, but it felt like a relationship. It felt real and solid and right in a way nothing else ever had. But of course, nothing perfect lasts forever. It started about a month into whatever we were calling this. Lennox had been quieter than usual, distracted. When I asked if everything was okay, she'd smile and say she was fine, but I could tell something was bothering her. Then one night, as we were having dinner at her place, she finally told me, "I got a job offer," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "That's great," I said, genuinely happy for her. "Where?" "New York. It's with a major publication, the kind of opportunity that doesn't come along often. They want me to be their lead portrait photographer." My stomach dropped. New York. "Yeah. When would you start?" "They want me there in 6 weeks." 6 weeks? A month and a half. It felt impossibly soon and devastatingly far away all at once. "Are you going to take it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Lennox finally looked at me, and I saw the conflict written all over her face. "I don't know. It's everything I've worked for. It's my dream job, Sloan. But what? But you're here." Her voice cracked slightly. "And this is the best thing that's happened to me in years, maybe ever, and I don't know how to choose." I reached across the table and took both of her hands. "You shouldn't have to choose between your dreams and your happiness. Aren't you part of my happiness?" "Yes," I said softly, "but so is your career, your passion, the thing you've worked your entire life for. I would never ask you to give that up for me." Tears welled in her eyes. "What if I don't want to go without you?" "Then we'll figure it out," I said, even though my heart was breaking. "We'll find a way." But even as I said the words, I wasn't sure I believed them. Long-distance relationships were hard. Most of them failed, and we were still so new, still learning each other. How could we survive being 3,000 miles apart? The next few weeks were strained. Lennox was torn between accepting the job and staying in Portland. I tried to be supportive, to tell her I wanted her to follow her dreams, but every time I imagined her leaving, I felt like I couldn't breathe. We stopped talking about the future. We focused on the present, on enjoying every moment we had left together. But there was an expiration date hanging over us now, and we both felt it. Then one night, about a week before she was supposed to give the publication her final answer, everything came to a head. We were at my apartment, ostensibly watching a movie, but neither of us was paying attention. The tension had been building all evening, thick and suffocating. Finally, Lennox paused the movie and turned to me. "I need to know what you're thinking." she said, really thinking. Not the supportive, understanding version, the real, honest truth. I took a shaky breath. Do you really want to know? Yes. I'm terrified, I admitted. I'm terrified that you're going to leave. And this beautiful thing we've built is going to crumble because we're not strong enough to survive the distance. I'm terrified that I'm going to lose you just when I've found you. And if I don't go, if I turn down the job and stay here, then I'll always wonder if you resent me for it. I said quietly, if you'll look at me one day and wish you'd made a different choice. I don't want to be the reason you give up on your dreams, Lennox. She stood abruptly and began pacing. So what are you saying? That there's no way for this to work? I'm saying I don't know. My voice rose, frustration and fear spilling over. I'm saying I've never felt this way about anyone, and the thought of losing you is killing me, but the thought of holding you back is worse. You're not holding me back, aren't I? You said yourself you don't know if you can go without me. That's holding you back, Lennox. That's making your decision harder than it should be. She stopped pacing and stared at me, tears streaming down her face. So what do we do? I don't know, I whispered. We didn't speak for 3 days after that fight. It was the longest 3 days of my life. I threw myself into work, staying late at the office, taking on extra projects, anything to avoid going home to my empty apartment where everything reminded me of her. Harper came over on the third night and found me on my couch, still in my work clothes, staring blankly at the TV. Okay, that's it, she said, turning off the TV. Talk to me. So I told her everything. The job offer, the fight, the impossible situation we were in. When I finished, Harper was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Can I tell you what I think? Please. I think you're both scared. And I think fear is making you both assume the worst instead of fighting for the best. You're so busy trying to protect yourselves from potential hurt that you're guaranteeing it." What do you mean? You love her, right? The word hung in the air. Love. We hadn't said it yet, but Harper was right. I did love her. Yes, I whispered. Then fight for her. Not by asking her to stay, but by showing her that distance doesn't have to mean the end. That you believe in her enough, in us enough, to try. What if it doesn't work? What if it does? Harper countered. Sloane, you've spent your whole life playing it safe. And where has that gotten you? You were miserable before you met her. She makes you happy. She makes you brave. Don't give up on that without even trying. The next morning, I texted Lennox, "Can we talk, please?" She responded within minutes. Yes, my place? When I arrived at her apartment, she looked as exhausted as I felt. We stood in her doorway for a moment, just looking at each other, and then I pulled her into my arms. "I'm sorry," I said into her hair. "I'm so sorry." "Me too," she whispered back. We sat on her couch, and I took her hands. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," I began, "about not knowing how to choose. And I realize that I've been making this harder for you by not being clear about what I want." "What do you want?" "I want you to take the job," I said firmly. "I want you to go to New York and do the incredible work I know you're capable of. I want you to live your dream." Her face fell. "So you're saying we're done?" "No," I said quickly. "I'm saying we try. We do long distance. It'll be hard, and maybe it won't work, but I would rather try and fail than not try at all. Because, Lennox, I love you. I love you, and I want to be with you, even if it means dealing with time zones and expensive plane tickets and missing you like crazy." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "You love me?" "Yes, I should have said it sooner, but I was scared. I'm done being scared." She launched herself at me, kissing me, hard, desperately, like she was trying to memorize the taste of me. "I love you too," she said between kisses. God, Sloane, I love you so much. We held each other for a long time, crying and laughing and kissing. And when we finally pulled apart, something had shifted. The fear was still there, but it was smaller now, manageable, because we had something stronger. Love and determination and the belief that what we had was worth fighting for. 6 weeks later, I stood in Lennox's empty apartment, helping her load the last of her boxes into a moving truck. She'd sold most of her furniture, shipped her photography equipment ahead, and packed the essentials into suitcases that would fly with her tomorrow. It felt surreal. Just 2 months ago, I'd met her in a bar, and now she was leaving, and I was trying not to fall apart. That's everything, she said, closing the truck's back door. She turned to me, and I saw my own pain reflected in her eyes. Will you stay with me tonight at the hotel? Of course. We spent our last night together in a sterile hotel room near the airport. We didn't sleep much. Instead, we talked about logistics when we'd visit, how often we'd video chat, the apartment she'd found in Brooklyn. But mostly we just held each other, trying to memorize the feeling of being together, of being whole. The next morning, I drove her to the airport. We stood at the security checkpoint, neither of us ready to say goodbye. This isn't forever, Lennox said, her hands gripping mine. 3 months. I'll come back for Christmas, and you'll visit before then, right? Right. I managed, even though my throat was tight with unshed tears. I love you, Sloane. I love you too. One last kiss, and then she was walking away, turning back every few steps to wave, until she disappeared into the crowd. I made it to my car before I started crying. The first month was brutal. We texted constantly and video chatted every night, but it wasn't the same. I missed her laugh, her touch, the way she looked at me like I was the most important person in her world. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into my projects, staying late, volunteering for extra assignments. My boss was thrilled. Harper was worried. You're running yourself into the ground, she said one evening over takeout at my place. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're miserable. When was the last time you did something that made you happy? I talk to Lennox every night, and then you stare at your phone for hours afterward looking like someone kicked your puppy. Sloane, I know you miss her, but you're still here, still living your life. You have to find a way to be okay in the in-between. She was right. Of course. I couldn't just exist in a holding pattern until I saw Lennox again. I needed to build a life that felt full, even when she wasn't physically in it. So I started saying yes to things. Harper dragged me to a pottery class, which I was terrible at, but enjoyed anyway. I joined a book club at the local library. I started running in the mornings, something I'd always meant to try but never had. Slowly, the days got easier. I still miss Lennox desperately, but I was learning how to be happy despite the distance. 2 months after she left, I boarded a plane to New York for a long weekend visit. Lennox met me at the airport, and the moment I saw her, everything else fell away. She ran to me, and I caught her, and we held each other like we'd been apart for years instead of weeks. You're really here, she breathed. I'm really here. That weekend was magic. She showed me her new neighborhood, the little coffee shop where she worked in the mornings, the rooftop where she went to watch the sunset. We walked through Central Park, hand in hand, and visited the publications offices where her work was displayed on the walls. I'm so proud of you, I told her, looking at her photographs, stunning portraits that captured not just faces but souls. I couldn't have done this without you, she said. Knowing you believed in me, that you were supporting me from 3,000 miles away, it made all the difference. On my last night there, we lay in her small Brooklyn apartment, wrapped around each other in her bed. I've been thinking, Lennox said quietly. About what? About the future, about us. My heart started to race. Okay, this is working, right? We're making it work? We are, I agreed. Then I want to ask you something. And you can say no, and it won't change anything between us, but I need to ask. What is it? She propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at me. My contract is for 2 years. After that, I can go anywhere, do anything. And I was thinking, what if we picked a place together? Not Portland, not New York, but somewhere new. Somewhere that's ours. We could start fresh, build a life together from the ground up. Hope bloomed in my chest, bright and warm. You mean that? I mean it. I love my job, but I love you more. And 2 years seems manageable when I know that at the end of it, we get to be together, really together. I pulled her down and kissed her, pouring everything I felt into it, love and gratitude and relief and joy. Yes, I said when we broke apart. Yes, let's do that. Let's plan for our future. The next 1.5 years were hard, but they were also good. We visited each other every 6 to 8 weeks, alternating who traveled. We sent care packages and surprise deliveries. We fell asleep on video chat more nights than not. And slowly we started planning. We talked about cities we both loved: Seattle, Austin, Denver. We talked about the kind of home we wanted, the life we'd build. It gave us something to look forward to, a light at the end of the tunnel. My career took off during that time. I was promoted to senior architect and given more creative control on my projects. Lennox's work was featured in major magazines and galleries. We were both thriving, both growing, and somehow, despite the distance, we were growing together instead of apart. Finally, 2 years after Lennox had left Portland, we stood in an empty apartment in Seattle, our new city, our fresh start. Home, Lennox said, looking around at the space that would soon be filled with our combined lives, her photographs and my books, our shared furniture and memories. Home, I agreed. We spent that first night in our new apartment on an air mattress, surrounded by boxes, eating pizza straight from the box. It was perfect. Can you believe it? Lennox said, resting her head on my shoulder. 2 years ago, I walked into a bar, and now here we are, building a life together. I finished. Are you happy? I looked at her, this incredible woman who'd taken a chance on me, who'd fought for us when it would have been easier to walk away, who'd shown me that love was worth the risk. I'm so happy, I said. Happier than I ever imagined I could be. She kissed me softly. Me too. 6 months later, on the anniversary of the night we met, Lennox took me back to a bar in Seattle that reminded us both of the Violet Room. Same exposed brick, same warm lighting, same intimate atmosphere. We sat in a corner booth, and she pulled out a small box. I've been carrying this around for weeks, she admitted, waiting for the right moment. But then I realized that any moment with you is the right moment. She opened the box to reveal a simple silver ring with a small diamond. Sloane, you taught me how to be brave. You showed me that love is worth fighting for, worth waiting for, worth every risk and sacrifice. Will you marry me? I was crying and laughing and nodding all at once. Yes. God, yes. She slipped the ring on my finger, and we kissed while the bar around us erupted in applause from strangers who'd been watching. We got married a year later in a small ceremony in Portland with our closest friends and family. Harper was my maid of honor and cried through the entire ceremony. Lennox's photographs covered the walls of the venue, documenting our journey from that first night to this moment. In my vows, I told her, you walked into my life when I'd forgotten how to hope. You showed me that the best things are worth waiting for, worth fighting for, worth believing in. You are my home, my partner, my greatest adventure. I love you today, and I will love you tomorrow, and I will love you for all the tomorrows we have left. In hers, she said, I saw you across a crowded bar, and I knew. I didn't know what exactly, but I knew my life was about to change. You made me believe in fate and magic, and the idea that sometimes the universe gets it right. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for fighting for us. Thank you for being my person. Now, 5 years after that night in the Violet Room, we live in a beautiful house in Seattle with a dog named Harper, our real Harper, insisted, and a cat named Violet. Lennox has her own studio where she continues to create breathtaking work. I'm a partner at my architecture firm, designing buildings that matter. But more than any of that, we have each other. We have quiet mornings with coffee on our porch. We have adventures to new cities and lazy Sundays in bed. We have arguments and makeups and the beautiful, messy reality of building a life with someone. Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I'll watch Lennox beside me, her face peaceful in rest, her hand reaching for mine even in sleep, and I'll think about that night, about how close I came to staying home, about how one decision, one moment of bravery changed everything. I think about the woman I was then, lonely, scared, living half a life, and I barely recognize her, because Lennox didn't just give me love, she gave me courage. She gave me myself, and every day I choose her. Every day she chooses me. That's what love is, I've learned. Not just the butterflies and passion and breathless kisses, though we still have plenty of those. Love is choosing to stay, choosing to fight, choosing to believe that what you have is worth every risk, every sacrifice, every moment of doubt. Love is looking at someone and saying, you're worth it, we're worth it. So if you're reading this and wondering if you should take that chance, talk to that person. Say yes to that invitation, even though you're scared. Do it. Take the risk. Be brave. Because somewhere out there is someone who will look at you the way Lennox looks at me. Someone who will fight for you the way we fought for each other. Someone who will make you believe in magic again. And that person is worth every ounce of courage it takes to find them. Thank you for letting me share our story. Thank you for believing in love, in second chances, in the idea that sometimes the best things in life happen when we least expect them. Take the chance, walk across the bar, say yes to the adventure. Your story is waiting.